The soil. After returning from the night school where he taught, Ho-sung lay down, resting his neck upon his school bag and lacing his fingers behind his head to form a pillow. Lying still, he could hear mosquitoes buzzing to and fro as they tried to get around the mosquito-repellent smoke. Now that the 7th month of the lunar calendar was half past, the wind felt a bit cool after nightfall. For a couple of years, Ho-sung had lived in Seoul with little possibility of hearing the mosquitoes buzz. In his hometown, even listening to them again pleased him. "How tall and beautiful Yusun has become," Ho-sung murmured to himself. Her image appeared before him, healthy and strong with gently rounded features. Though her face was tanned dark from the mountain region's strong sunlight, her eyes, nose, and mouth stood out sharply without losing the softness of a young woman's features. Reflecting moonlight, her face had been beautiful, almost like moonlight itself. Only her roughened hands did not fit. Used for weeding fields and working in water, they were not the porcelain hands of a city woman. She wore a stiff skirt and a traditional summer jacket of hemp cloth, along with black rubber shoes. She went without socks, which left the tops of her feet darkly tanned. Equally dark were her hands, wrists, and neck, as well as her calves below the short bloomers and shorter skirt, as if the summer sunlight had wished to kiss her body whenever offered a chance, desiring her beautiful and healthy skin. Ho-sung tried to compare Yusun with Jung-sun. The latter was daughter to Mr. Yoon, the aristocratic official with whose Seoul's resident Sung was the house tutor. Jung-sun was a fragile woman with fair skin, almost transparent, and hands so small and soft that they seemed likely to shatter at a touch. She had been one of the loveliest beauties in Sukmyeong Girls' High School. In Sung's eyes, Jung-sun was the celestial maiden of the moon, so unreachable. He had roomed in the servants' quarters of the Yoon family while tutoring their young son in primary school studies. And for such a poor man from the countryside, without parents or property, a beautiful woman like Jung-sun, the only daughter of a noble and wealthy family, was one in whose presence he felt unworthy even to lift up his eyes. But he might be able to secure at least a woman like Yusun for himself. In his current situation, Yoon-sun's parents might be reluctant to offer him their daughter's hand, but they would perhaps consider him as a future son-in-law after he had graduated from college. With those thoughts, Sung sighed over his circumstances. Sung's family had been among the well-off families in the village. His father Gyeom, a graduate at Daesung School in Pyongyang, had been arrested several times under the Japanese military police government as a suspect in Shiminhae, Bukando, and Sogando affairs, as well in the independence movement. His various sentences added up to about 8 years, but he spent over 10 altogether behind bars, including detentions at the police station after his arrest and his time confined during the investigations. The family fortune had been used up in supporting him those long prison years, and sustaining the household itself was difficult, let alone providing for Sung's school fees. Once out of prison, Gyeom had used the family's rice paddies and other lands as collateral for funds from a financial cooperative to start a business. But having no experience with that kind of work, he failed, losing all the collateral land, and so turned to alcohol out of anger, only to die of typhoid fever. His wife and daughter, Sung's younger sister, also became infected and died, leaving Sung with nothing but the clothes on his back. Sung thus had no place of his own, and the house where he was now staying belonged to his cousin Song. Yusun's family lived over a hill from where he was staying. Her parents were simple farmers. Sun's father, Jin-yi, was still young, and her grandfather had succeeded in first-level national exam, attaining the title Choshi. The Ho clan had lived in Song's village for several hundred years. The Yu clan had lived equally as long in the village over the hill. Both had produced family members who had succeeded in the national exams, or who had lived in the tile-roofed houses of the rich. But according to Grandfather Yu, there's been no use for scholarship or in being Yangbang nobility since the Reformation of 1894. As the two villages slowly declined, the courageous gave up their government offices, tied headbands to their brows, and threw away their books and brush pens to wield hoes and rice paddies instead. Some, however, buckled down, sticking to their offices and hoping for the glory of old times. But a few, like Sung's father, stood at the forefront of reform, keeping their hair cut short and wearing Western-style clothes. Some of these ended up in prison. Members of Yoon-sun's family were among the quiet, sly ones who looked out for their own interest. Ho-sung's family was among those active in affairs, working to improve the world or going to modern schools.